Welcome back to Made Up of Wires, where we're decompiling the Access Network video camera firmware. That actually would be interesting to look at. It is a MIPS-based network video camera from the late 90s, early 2000s. I worked in a 3D printing lab around that time period, and we bought those cameras to monitor our 3D printing machines, which are not like today's 3D printing machines. Hey Dizzy, good to have you back. They were massive and cost more than most cars of the time. Set up my chat in OBS. I need to write a scripter plugin to grab the... Can I do this? If you do pop-out chat, you can grab the URL, but the only way that I know to do that is through the web inspector. It'd be nice to have a better way to do that. All right, let's go. It's loading. There we go. No, we're going to decompile Castlevania Symphony of the Night, of course. And you can learn more about that project at soten.z.dev. See the progress we've made on a bunch of overlays, but not the overlays that, that I've been working on. Before we get too far into it, I wanted to give a little bit of update on weapons on the PSP, which I think will be a nice thing for people to work on once it's put in. So last week, I think, I did some work to get the first weapon building on the PSP, and then I just fixed the build script so that it could build the second weapon as well. And I'm going to take a little time at the beginning of the stream to go over what that means. And right now they're building from two different C files, but those C files are mostly the same. See if we can get them to build from one C file, and then maybe something, a slight improvement. So there's a couple issues that weapons have on the PlayStation. You have left-hand weapons and right-hand weapons. They're in two separate files, and every weapon is in that one file. We have a pretty complicated splat config for that, because basically the offset in that file does not dictate the VRAM. So every segment needs to have its own restart of the VRAM address. So we get a ton of, and the F files, which I think is the sprite data, that is in there as well, interleaved. So we have sprites, and then we have code. Well, this is somewhat interesting. I'm not sure why these animation sets are pulled out. Kind of an odd thing. I'll have to look into that in a second. Because those are built in. This does not reflect the layout as far as I'm aware of this file, which is kind of curious. Because these two animation sets are actually included in the C file and part of the C data and not a separate thing. I'll have to look at why that is. Well, anyway, so weapons. There should be about 58 of them in this file. And all the weapons get built into one single bin file. And then each weapon is exactly the same size, so you can index into that file nice and easily. But on the PSP, we have something different. Every weapon is in its own file. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if what the advantage, I guess, of one to the other is. I would imagine that seeking into a file as opposed to going to its index on disk is a little more expensive, and so maybe they realize that, and I don't know how the UMD speed compares with the PlayStation Test Drive. I would think it's faster, if anything, but details I don't know. So instead of having 58 of those in one file, we're going to end up with one splat config per weapon times hand. And so the major differences that I've done so far are instead of building into just PSP EU, weapons now get built into a directory specific to the hand that they're on, and that's because we want them to be able to use the same C file, but the object file that gets created when compiling that C file is based on its path on disk, and because they're compiling from the same file as it was, if they would go to the same build directory, that means that they would compile to the same object, but the objects are going to be different, and they're going to be different because, for instance, the hand ID has changed. Some of the sprite data has changed. Would it be safe to would it be safe to assume that they all have the same internal structure? Yes, primarily, and there is the main thing with the PSP is we're going to have some sections in the PSP, some weapons, and not sections in the other. And I haven't figured that part out, and so it probably would be good to go through. I think I'm going to submit this for a PR as it is after a little bit of cleanup. But I think shortly after this, I probably need to go through. I had a PR out with the Splat team. So one of the things that's going to be really annoying about this is that there's 100. Did I figure out that there's 119 of these? I think 119. Maybe 116. Somewhere around that. There's 116 of these weapon files. And right now we would need a Splat config for every single one of them. And what is the difference between these two Splat configs? The base name, the target path, the assembly path, and that's about it. I mean, there's a few things. So originally what I had wanted to do is I submitted a PR with the idea of hierarchical Splat configs, and what that would have been allowed us to do would be be able to define something like a weapon.yaml, take all of the common things, and then define a parent. So let's get rid of the actual differences. Actually, this is the same as well. You'd be able to have something like this, and then in each of these concrete Splat configs, the only thing that you would have to define is the differences and arrays. So Splat can already merge multiple configs, and so this was taking advantage of that, but allowing you to model it in the config itself. And I think there's advantages to doing that, primarily that this modeling then is checked into source code. It's baked into the configuration as opposed to being baked into the build system. We do use the multi-splat config in other cases, but then you get a relatively small config. So we went from about 50 lines down to 26 lines. That's better, I think. The issue is we don't have a way to, so we can merge arrays. The symbol address path index into this dictionary is an array, and so Splat will recognize that the original was an array and that we have an additional value in that array, and so it appends it, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. Same thing with segments. That is an array, and everybody has the MetroWorks header there. I would take this a step further and abstract another level for PSP things. And then you can kind of build your hierarchy. But that doesn't exist yet. And then as I was going through this, I wanted to finish off these first couple to see like what was really necessary. The Splat team has talked about how do you build multiple similar things like that. Another option, or I shouldn't say another option, I do think having a variables config or something like that, where you could come in and put variables in place, that would allow you to move even more over to a parent config. So I think the combination of those two things would make this whole process significantly easier. Even the symbol address path. So that adds some complexity, and we have a bunch of tooling. One thing I did do at the beginning of the year was make it so that you could load Splat config through an API in that gets shipped with Splat. So you could consume it instead of just treating this as a generic YAML file. And so there is infrastructure in place for being able to do something like that without having to break people who want to just write Splat config. Anyway, that's not here yet, though. That's what I would like, I think. But Dizek says, the parent include, and if you have a PR, that means you've been working on a solution. What stops you from using your own version of Splat? I think I have to go check on some other work that I did in the MetroWorks wrapper that we use. That one, I think I would be okay forking and suggesting that we use a fork of it as opposed to the original, because it's slow moving. Mainly, if you fork and then use the fork, you're responsible for patching, and your changes aren't compatible with other people. It's a pretty big project. I mean, there's between I'd say 6 and 12 active people submitting code on this, so it's not really my decision. It would have to we'd have to talk about it. I don't, if I can get something upstream, I'd rather do that, because there's probably things that I'm not thinking of as well, and I want the Splat guys are mostly not working on projects like this. They've been mostly working on single file ROMs. They have been doing, like, I know, is it Ethan or Mark, one of the two, has been working on like PlayStation 2 stuff, so may come into contact with these problems. But I think largely we're running up to some scaling things regarding how we need to build things that really others haven't, because there's not a ton of active projects compared to PlayStation projects or PSP projects. Like if you look at the PSP presets in decomp.me, oops, I wanted to build for PSP. The number of presets is very small. All right, so what do I want to do? I do like to talk about that because getting any feedback related to it, I think, is valuable. But what I would like to do, or prefer to do right now, is figure out how to get both of these compiling from the same W000 C file. I don't think it's going to be tough I split them off mostly because I wanted a baseline that I knew I could compile from, and then I wanted one that would work for the hand ID 1. And so let's jump into that. The diff is really small at the moment, so I don't think it's going to be a lot of work, and mostly just proving out the concept. So we're going to go to weapon, and we want everything eventually building from weapon, the W_0. I did some stuff. There's some namespaced files, so I had to figure out how to use macros to build include paths. That's working, and kind of leverage some of that for this as well, so we can namespace the assets. And W1 is the other one. The first big issue, and I think I've solved that already, I just need to reorder it properly, is that weapon 1's hand ID is defined early in the file, and in weapon 0 is defined late in the file. And that probably means that there is a file split. And that hand ID is actually an object with just this value in it. Unfortunately, the way that we currently have this split, it would be relatively difficult for me to do that. At least not in a way that maybe it wouldn't be that bad, actually. So right now I just have them if-deffed out. Thinking about it a little further, maybe this isn't as bad as I think. Let me look at what's in shared. If there's data in shared, it would suck. If there's not data in shared, it might be fine. I don't see any data. That might be fine. So this would mean like pulling out like a hand.c, and that would mean the build script would have to change because every weapon would use hand.c, and there would be two different versions compiled. One would be for weapon 0 files, and one would be for weapon 1 files. I might get to that, but right now I'm going to ignore that. So what I'm going to try to do though is get the diff of these two files to be the same. So keep building, checking my work, and then diffing these as well. I do have some. Let me get rid of this debug line in the build script. I had to do a bunch of changes in the build script. We dynamically build the build path as opposed to getting it from splat config in a bunch of places. And so I was unifying all those as well. I might put these warnings in here to just assert to myself that the handedness was working fine. The hand ID comes from a define that gets set at compile time. Let's do a diff between these two and see, maybe we're there already. Oh, not quite there. The way the weapon pointer needs to be set up, I want to change this as well. I wanted to change this earlier. Right now this is done through a define, and this was done a bunch of places. We have symbols where they're fixed addresses in memory, and we're going to do mem copies to them to take the overlay data that's on the disk and stick them in a particular place in memory. The way that this was originally done in the decomp project was to make those defines with hard-coded values. We have symbol tables that can do all that for us, so I'd rather use a symbol table and just share the symbol. So I think I'm going to make that. I'm going to fix the diff first, and then I'm going to make that change. I'll show you what I mean by that. So right now, I always like to just kind of go piece by piece, keep things working. what I did was, if it's weapon 0, we're going to use the A000 pointer. If it's weapon, if it's a weapon 1, we're going to use the D00 pointer. So I'm going to continue on with that. And then the mem copy needs to go to weapon pointer. And then this should still build, and it does. So now I think these files are the same. I have a to-do. I'll throw that to-do over. I don't think we have an overlay name. So OVL export is probably going to have to change as well. A weapon-specific version of it being built from the hand ID as well as the weapon ID. I'm not sure if we pull the weapon ID from anywhere. Do we have OVL export here? Somebody do this. We do! What? I had no idea. But these files are the same. So let's do this. Let's look at OVL export. I just want to make sure it's working the way I expect. So weapon is not... Where's weapon defined? Weapon is not defined. So we can look at the header. It seems like this is just going to create W underscore and not W0 or W1. So let's look at the weapon.elf for the US, and that should, we'll look at symbols there. Build US weapon.elf. Weapon. Do we not have a weapon.elf? Usually the elf file is the same as the LD file. In this case, or in the Are we building from each of the SO or each of the .os? Could be. Hey, Spring Quetzal, good to have you back. Okay, we can just do those. So I want to grep for W anything, and then I don't think I can do DDD, but I'm gonna try it. Let's try egrep with extended valid options. What? not giving an option A. Oh, move. What am I doing? Not move. NM. I can Unix sometimes. W underscore. Let's see if that'll give it to me. Oh, it did. And we want. Do we do it lazily? All right, so yes, this is what I, well, no, that's not what I thought. Let's find an OVL exported symbol. Come on. He's not a good muscle memory day. So we have header. We should see a bunch of these named header. Okay, let's look for underscore header. Oh. So OVL export does not appear to be working. We don't need the symbol name. We just need this to show up. So I'm gonna... and why would OVL export not work? It should be at least underscore header. It's only used for the PC version. Why? The only place we're using OVL export is... literally, it's just used for the weapon header. So, I don't think we have a good reason to limit it there. Let's try this. So this is the US version now. This has to continue to work everywhere. And that's somewhat not fun when you're dealing with a bunch of different platforms and a bunch of different compilers. My first taste of I shouldn't say my first taste. One of my early tastes of like cross-platform compatibility was have I ever told this story publicly? I don't know. I don't think I'm under NDA or anything like that. I worked for a large domain registrar. And if you don't know what that is, weapon ID header. So we're not defining weapon IDs. Oh, that sucks. If you're not familiar with what a domain registrar is, it is a... we call this header everywhere. I should name it the same thing. It's a company that you can register domain names with. And it should work, right? Ooh, it does not work. What does it mean to register a domain name? Why that didn't work. Basically, you get the rights to use that domain for a year for some set price. This is not ideal. Do we need this symbol somewhere? Or is something else using weapon ID? Nothing else uses it. Well, I'm confused. Anyway, we're actually not concerned with that. We're just concerned with the hand ID. Where are weapon IDs coming from, though? Maybe we're not compiling them yet. Anyway, can I do this? This is gonna work, or is it gonna break too? Ooh, bunch of. Oh. This is probably defined in the build script. I didn't even think of that. Let's look at build.ninja. So I was working for a domain registrar, and I worked on the system that, like, you register a domain, and the registrar updates DNS. The root DNS to point to basically a landing page for that domain until you do something with it, and then they collect ad revenue. So do something with your domains, otherwise your registrar's getting paid for them. Oh, so this is... No, that's not it. They are defining the handedness. I don't get it. Weapon ID is weapon ID done in CMake? It is. Oh, yuck. Crud. Okay, so weapon ID has to come from the build system. I'm not gonna worry about that yet. I'm gonna stick with the OVL export. It doesn't actually matter for what I'm trying to accomplish now. Except I need to know the name. I'm gonna keep these, not worry about OVL export. So what I have done, what have I done? What? I should rename this header to match. I'm not sure why I called it overlay originally. It is the same definition as this, just with different casts. So let's flip this one. Anyway, so we had millions of domains pointed to this system. And what does that mean? That meant a lot of ad revenue. And multiple rules generate that source, okay. We're not really generating the source. This stinks. This is used to run a phony rule. Which is to make sure that the assets get done. There's a lot of other things that force the assets to get done, so I'm thinking about just dropping that phony rule. Anyway, so we had millions of domains going, but that also meant that millions of domains were serving up that they were being served by Apache. And Microsoft wanted to get into the domain game. Hey, Mozilla, good to have you. Thank you. So Microsoft came to us and said, we want all your unused domains to go, your millions of domains that people have done nothing with. We want them to go to IIS, Microsoft's server, because so there was, oh, what is the name of it? What was the name of it? There's a site which tracked, it tracked what web servers people were using. And they wanted, I can't remember what it was. Like, it wasn't NetWatch. I can't remember what they were called. Trapped. Anyway, Microsoft wanted their number to be higher than Apache's number, and they thought if they paid us lots of money to move millions of domains over, they could beat Apache. And that was very important. They wanted everybody to know how powerful Windows was at running things on the web. So my job became porting our PHP Linux ad infrastructure. It didn't start out as ad infrastructure. It also ran like very minimal one-page sites as well that you could kind of configure. So there was some stuff that was going on there to run on Windows. And we were using mod rewrite and a bunch of other things that IIS didn't support natively. And so at some point I had the brilliant idea of just using IIS as a proxy back to our Linux host. We served millions of domains, and it was how much traffic? It was a fair amount of traffic off of 2 Linux boxes. I think it was just 2. Am I thinking right? It was between 2 and 6. We needed 3 times the number of Windows boxes to serve the same amount of traffic. But Microsoft paid for it all. Anyway, the point is, I learned a lot about cross-platform considerations and building and testing and Halcoon saying non-standard S-string functions for string copy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like if you stick to POSIX, most of it just works. But not always. I haven't looked at in a long time. All right, so the one thing that I need to do is find where we're generating this rule, this phony rule for the assets. And it looks like, what function is this? Looks like it's done in add C. And this would be implicit, but not that implicit. It will be this one. So what I've done for this in the past, and I'm going to do it here, I'm just going to create a set. And then I can check the set. And I'm hoping this is all that's needed for this. So let's try it again. Still multiple rules. So I want W000 C colon. That is not the right one. Oh, that was the PlayStation. Duh. We don't have this problem on the PlayStation yet. I'm going to keep it there because we will have this problem eventually. Or... There we go. So now we're building, this is sweet. We're building both weapons. I'm going to clean this. If I clean, I'm going to get rid of my BO6 stuff, and I don't want to do that. But I think this is working, and I think it will be fine. So what we're doing is building both the left-hand and right-handed weapons from the same C file and building them on the PSP. So this is kind of a base template for what the other weapons will look like. And it's some important groundwork. Probably won't stay this way, but it works the way that it is. So I'm happy that I was able to get that done. I do want to fix the weapon stuff. And I'll probably throw that out there and see if people on Discord have any comments before submitting a PR for that. So that's good. Let's get back to Richter. Anything else I need to save here? I don't think so. I'm gonna stash it and then we'll go back to Richter. I like trying to get one or so of those more project-wide things done a week or so. Doing more than that is possibly too disruptive. The build all change got in, so I should start using that. And then I think the parallel build change is ready to go as well, but I have to check it with this weapon stuff because I don't want to have to change it. Then, so make build all should go through and yeah, build all three versions, and that should just work. Oh, but I still have my BO6. Do I have BO6 stuff for? No, I don't. I took that up. So PSP should build fine. It's not building the portable builds. So there's some regression for Richter that have to go, but that's fine. Not too concerned. But let's get back and see what Richter stuff we have. So I was working in this 3914C file, and I think we're just going. I thought that I found a duplicate, but I was wrong. How couldn't didn't I thought you could do regular sockets. Is WinSock different enough from BSD sockets? So this is not a duplicate. It's been so long since I've done any type of development. I set up this project actually because I was doing some stuff. I think I was rewriting the wiki for the project setup, and I wanted to try it on as many platforms as I could. And so I forced myself to go through and set up a Windows host and dev environment, and I did not have fun with that. I think we can do this here. Sorry, I'm setting up decomp.me. It's like a short one. So how many? So this definitely is not all of the PlayStation decompilation projects, obviously, that are going on. But there's only about 20 in this list. If you compare it to something like the N64, yeah, quite a bit more. There's probably 50, 40, something like that. Let's say 40. So double the PlayStation. What about PS2? PS2 is even more than the PlayStation. Or at least about the same. No, there's more. About 3DS. 3DS, not much going on. Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Advance is kind of interesting because it's ARM, and I would think that there would be more interest. So there was a PSP, or not PSP, Vita on Switch project that I think was like a wine type translation layer, if I'm remembering correctly. Is there any project like that for Game Boy Advance? That seems like it would be an easy win. GameCube? Oh, lots of GameCube. Wow. GameCube would have the same problem of multiple files on the disk. A couple Switch games, that's interesting as well. My son would love for Splatoon to be on everything. Splatoon 2, I think that's his favorite. No love for the PSP. Yeah, no love for the Saturn. The Saturn, like we do have a preset there. Integration is not the best. I don't think that there's I have tried to use this in the past. I can't remember offhand. Oh, interesting. Sonic CD, I would take a look at that. I wouldn't think that there would be a lot of C, just the infrastructure to set up the emulator, but maybe it's not an emulator. And who can't love Barbie Sparkling Ice Show? GBA on anything. So GBA on Android devices, GBA on Vita, GBA on Switch 2 or Switch. Probably not Switch 2. I don't know if Switch 2 can do native. Can it do native 32-bit? I can't remember. There's just so much ARM around. Game Boy Advance native on Raspberry Pis. Same with 3DS. Yeah, but if you don't have to emulate it. So, like, one of the things that that's kind of coming out of the Symphony of the Night project is having the shim layer for the PlayStation SDK as a library that you can build against. And so if you have something like that for 3DS as well, that you can link against it, and I mean, it's a lot like wine. You know, why emulate it when you can intercept the system calls and things like that. Yeah, and I don't know enough about Game Boy Advance. It might be different enough that that's not feasible. Anyway, we'll keep going. Get back to Soten. So, playing a sound effect. Facing Richter. Let's see what the sound effect is. Oh, yeah, these sound effects that we have cataloged don't go up this high. And I'm not sure if okay, so we do have some in the 800s. But not this. There were so Dirt Princess and I forget who else. We're spending a lot of time cataloging all these and giving them names. I'm pretty sure Project Oblivion has been in here. Cinemax, that's who I was thinking of. Looks like a lot of people Gamester. But going through and giving all these names and putting them in a nice enum. So we don't have this one, fortunately. What are you gonna do? Let's get this compiling. If you run make ff, it should reformat it for you. I usually fail to run the linter beforehand too. Okay. All right, so we have a set animation. I think that these are Sine 16 arrays, but let's find an example. Animation frame. Yeah, I have briefly looked at. Isn't it kind of the opposite though? They were building the Saturn, and they decided that they could rip out the processors and just use the Genesis for audio, and if they wanted to, they could map the CD drive in. I thought it was kind of a cost saving and like maybe not necessarily cost saving, but getting something to market quicker. It seems bonkers that like that was the quicker solution. And I think this is an Eonit, but I don't remember. The 32X though is pretty similar from a development perspective, isn't it? Yeah, and I mean even Sony didn't get it right, deciding to go with fixed point values. So beyond them both being SH2. Okay. It looks like it's an entity, so this might be an entity pointer. Oh, it is an entity pointer. It is a specific location in the entity table. So it's entity C8. Which is 200. I didn't realize. Yeah, okay, so the 32X has its own frame buffer, but it also can't it composite with the output from the Genesis as well? Isn't that what the input is for? This is another. Oh, that's the same one. This also is a field in one of the entities. So let's figure out what that is. What's interesting, I'm pretty sure PsyQ is available for the Saturn and what am I trying to do here? B8. So we're 20 bytes into Saturn and the 32X. Oh, that's interesting too. So I think this is offset 20, which is rotation pivot X. That doesn't make sense. It would make more sense if it was. Oh, it's no. Okay. Let me fail to calculate here. So we're gonna take this address, and what we need is actually 27 will tell us. This is the base address. So we're going to take this, subtract this. Oh, 30. What did I think? 20. And then, oh, yeah, offset 30 is params. That makes more sense. I need to spend some more time looking into it. This may be part of the GRIC struct, so let's go look at that. No problem, Falcon. Yeah, no, I agree. And I agree as well about the not understanding 3D necessarily. It's pretty crazy that I think some of the things that were thought about with GTE, because it does seem quite a bit different from other, so like Superscalar and things like that were all kind of sprite based, or even the Neo Geo stuff. Where like scaling and rotation was the big thing. That's a lot like Superscalar though. And then bigger and bigger sprites. Disic's asking how big is the animation frame struct? They might be part of the same thing. I'll go look in a second. I think it's mostly though a type def over sine 16 array, but we'll go look. I want the GRIC. Where's my GRIC? This is my size screw up, and another one here. And so this needs to be, if this difference is less than 3DO, oh, it comes before. Yeah, it's before. Okay, so this is just something hanging out several dozen bytes before GRIC. And GRIC is going to be in BSS. Maybe not. Yes, it will be in BSS. Never mind. The functions, if it's after functions, which these are all, it'll be in BSS. So we don't really know. Just leave it as a sine 32. Let's look at Mozilla's PR. Yeah, I think it's mostly so Sozu D can approve as well. And all I can do is post my positive comment, which may or may not get the attention. There's nothing really going on. I know, like, so Sozu D, Biz Murphy hasn't been around reviewing things, and then Sozu D and Xiainamo are the other people with merge permission. I need to go through. I think basically people with merge permission are just not around at the moment. So things are. I know Sozu D was limited on time, and he's been doing most of the PRs. I need to find my stupid tab again. Too many tabs. I should close most of these. Which function we're working on? B94. All right, so there's a few things. It looks like this is mostly done. There's things like the G API calls that need to be switched to struct access. Oh, cool. Having Maria stand on that band, that's awesome. I do need to fix the timers. This is an array. And we do have enums for these arrays as well. Alu timer. Oh, Alu T. It's like the poison timer. So my guess is that this is the poison effect. Oh, I was going to look at how big is an animation frame? Yeah, it's pretty small. Duration and pose. So pretty small. Are these? Yeah, so it's small enough that I don't think that they overlap. That's a good call out though. Oh, that's interesting. That so you're saying that the geometry would make up the and so geometry, shading, probably gradients, the way that the gradients are done, that would have made up the detail. And then textures were kind of a afterthought. Is that the idea? Maybe afterthought isn't the right word, but so step S getting incremented here. Oh, can't say anything about that yet until it gets fixed. Okay, didn't end up mattering. I think this is fine. So symbol differences, those should all work out as long as I have the right index here. I could pull it out as a variable. Let's do that and see if it makes a difference. Yeah, that looks fine. Kind of interesting that it is fine, because create entity from current entity could technically oh no, it would still be a pointer to that location of memory. But okay, nothing has changed. Oh, that's fine. I can think. So yeah, I think everything is just symbols. So as long as I have that offset right, that should be fine. And I think I need all of those declarations. And that looks good. So let's see where this function is called. This is called from Richter main. So that should give us a hint as to what it's doing, or like what it's for. Okay, so this is part of ending 2. I can't remember. So I think that the endings are you get killed. We'll have to go through and see which of these. You get killed by Richter, you don't have the holy glasses. You kill Richter, you don't have the holy glasses. You get killed by Richter when you do have the, or you get killed, yeah, by Richter when you do have the holy glasses and you kill the orb. Is that the options? We'll have to see. So this is something having to do with ending 2. We should go through and try to generate all those endings. Interesting that there's something about the poison timer. I wonder if that is not correct. It might be used for something else. So we do have a few other sound effects. I'm going to go through and clean those up quickly. 6-2F is a weapon appearing. Oh, interesting. So Halkun saying that, yeah, so thinking about like Namco's arcade hardware at the time, something like Ridge Racer, where, yeah, everything is very flat and like you have road texture and a little bit of a little bit of outer texture for like the billboards and signs and stuff, but not, yeah, not primarily the form of graphics. Oh, and Halcoon was a Namco employee. That is correct. That is correct. What a wild ride that must have been. I don't think that we have a... Nobody's done a Ridge Racer decomp? Two years ago. Somebody was reversing. So it's possible that somebody has been doing this in private. Yeah, that kind of seems like an obvious game. The original Ridge Racer was a launch title, right? I think it'd be interesting to do the original. So the arcade would be good, sure. Yeah, I don't see any issue with that. I don't know much about the Namco hardware. Was that a MIPS? No, it was Motorola 68,000. Which one? I mean, no issue with the 68,000. I would just have to remind myself of that. But the instruction set there is pretty simple. So they had texture mapping, gouache shading, transparency. They did have depth queuing. And about the same number of polygons per second. So that would be interesting to look at. Yeah, I'd probably look at the PlayStation version, and then I think the Type 4, the demo that they had on the Type 4 disc where they redid the original with the Type 4 engine. And just comparing those, I think would be kind of interesting. Again, kind of from a historical perspective. What did they learn over the years? All right, I think that's where I'm going to end today. So this is something related to the second ending. We'll have to come back and figure out what it is. Do I have another sound effect that I can figure out now? There is... It might be good to go through and catalog some of these as well. There was a lot in Doppelganger that were never cataloged, and I just threw in as unknowns. But yeah, that's it. So the exciting thing, I think, to me, the exciting thing today was weapon progress for PSP. Getting the individual weapons to compile, I think, may or may not make modding easier. We'll see. But that's it. Go to soten.z.dev to learn more about the Symphony Night Decompilation project. And yeah, appreciate everybody chatting. Thanks, Dizik, Motzilla, Halcoon. Good to have y'all. And Supreme Quetzal, of course. Good luck on calculus, as always. Adios. I'll see you. I'll see y'all later. Bye.